Okay.
Okay.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Be Frank, another remote podcast today with Herman in our Cape Town office. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the power of words. And I had a number of reasons for thinking of this one. It was a bit of a last minute decision, but I watched a video last week. It's called, the podcast or video channel is called English with Lucy. And she was talking about selling yourself with words, and which I agree with. I agree that words are powerful and all this stuff. But there were a few things that I didn't agree with. So she was talking about words you should use when you're selling yourself or selling your business, and words you shouldn't use. And there's a list, and we've spoken about weasel words before. But I think one of the things that turned me off what she was saying is she kept saying, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And that's one of our weasel words. And so I thought, well, surely should is one of the words you shouldn't be using. But yeah, I do. And I also found that, sorry, I'm talking a lot because words. But I found a quote by Yehuda Berg, which is, words are singularly the most powerful force available to humanity. We can choose to use this force constructively with words of encouragement, or destructively using words of despair. Words have energy and power, with the ability to help, to heal, to hinder, to hurt, to harm, to humiliate, and to humble. And I just thought that was a really nice way of putting it and using some beautiful words in the quote.
Correct.
Yeah.
Tell me, did Lucy, while she was going on about should, did she also literally? You literally?
No, but that is one of my words that I can't deal with.
Yeah, and I was just reminded when you talked about this YouTube channel, there's a channel that I often watch, the kind of weekly videos, and so many times I'm so close to a point where I felt like I want to just remind you that using the word literally in every second sentence doesn't make a stronger point, or doesn't make it more valid.
Yeah. My favorite is the phrase, I literally died.
Yes. And yet you are
telling us about it. Yeah. So I was thinking of a lot of things with this. One of them was that phrase that you get told as a child, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me. And how inaccurate that is when you look at it as an adult. Is bone breaks, heal, you get better when you hurt yourself, but words can really have a lasting effect, and the words that you use with people and with children and with colleagues and in all different environments.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. It has such a long-lasting effect in terms of the things that we hear in the words. It is not necessarily the individual words. It's the way that we put them together and then pass them on. But there's so many facets to this in terms of the power of words. And, this morning I had two separate, actually there were three conversations this morning. And in every single conversation, the phrase of, I just don't have time came up. And
we've spoken about that before as well.
We've spoken about that before. And it's also about what that highlighted for me again is kind of the words that we speak to ourselves. Because if I keep telling you enough times that I don't have time, then I start believing it.
Yeah.
And we know. And actually, the last conversation I had, I pointed out the fact that you are lying to yourself when you say I just don't have time. And the person was very quick to go, well, you know what, you're actually right. You're just making me aware of it.
Yeah.
I can actually maybe refocus my energy a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say that excuse has
higher priority.
Yeah, I was going to say it has more to do with priorities than time. It's good.
Absolutely.
What to do. It's what you want to do.
And there are many others, many other examples, I think, where we can point to words that we use, or thoughts, I suppose, words, things that you tell yourself, that will actually just highlight the importance or the power of those words.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
I
had one
word.
this morning. I had one this morning in my email to you was, I'm out of ideas. And that's such a lie. I mean, I just need to spend some time thinking about it. I thought about that as soon as I wrote, I feel like I'm out of ideas. I thought, no, that's not true. Not out of
Yes.
ideas. Yeah.
So, what are some tips that you have about whether it is in terms of the words that we use towards others?
Yeah.
Because it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah. So, I mean, we speak about it quite a lot, about positivity and being positive and self-awareness. So I think it's being aware of the words that you're using, and we're very aware of it, especially in this podcast or video of our I thinks, which I still notice myself doing, and I'm very aware of saying I think and trying not to use it when it's not just a situation of maybe that's a possible. I try to catch myself saying things that are not true, I suppose. It's really difficult because once the words come out of your mouth, they're out of your mouth, and there's no going back because you've said them. So,
Correct.
But I think the fact that we're more aware of it and that we catch ourselves saying things that we don't necessarily mean is a start.
In other words, think before you speak.
Yeah. But also don't sugarcoat what you're thinking, because then it comes back to our whole lying thing. So think before you speak is not necessarily alter the meaning of what you're saying, but
yes.
I don't really, yeah. Because I want to say what I'm thinking, but say it in such a way that it doesn't sound like I'm fumbling or making it up on the spot, which is what it sounds like right now.
It reminds me of, I think it's rule 9 of Jordan Peterson's 12, be precise in your speech.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that you sugarcoat anything.
Yeah.
I mean, call bullshit on something if that's what you believe.
Yeah.
But generally being aware of thinking before you speak, making sure that, this is for me personally, is I try to stick to facts.
Yeah. You can't argue with facts. A fact is a fact.
A fact is a fact.
Yeah.
But there's also sometimes, I mean, is it my fact?
Well, then it's not a fact. Then it's an opinion. So, if we're going to get pedantic about these things, a fact is a fact is a fact.
So even if I can cite a study, we know how often, I mean, just recently I listened to a podcast where two gentlemen had very different opinions, and they both cited study after study after study.
Yeah.
And they went back and forth with one trying to disprove this study. Well, that was funded by such and such, and therefore can't really say that those are facts. So it also depends, I suppose, on our viewpoint. But I do try to stick to facts.
Yeah.
I try not to lie. Often that turns into a little bit of sugarcoating.
Yeah. For your own benefit, not for the person you're speaking to.
Yes. Always for your... And I'm also very aware of that. And I realize that when I say things like that, that it's for my own benefit.
Yeah.
And again, it reminds me of a conversation just this morning. with one of our colleagues, where it got to a point where, you know what, I'm not really keen to say or to speak the truth, simply because I'm worn down. I've asked this a number of times and I get the same answer. I'm just not. So it's not the right thing to do, but I can understand the person's viewpoint that, well, you know what, every time I mention this, I'm kind of met with the same resistance or with the same bullshit answer. So I try to be aware of those things and not shy away from those type of conversations. But what other tips do you have in terms of the power of words?
Well, I think as a general rule, not just in terms of words, is kind of focusing more on the positive than the negative. And I think I mentioned it to someone in the office on my team about something that they were saying, which just sounded very negative in the way that they were saying it, and just to reframe it in a positive way. So even though it's telling the same message, it's the whole idea of the psyche, and that people respond better to a positive message than a negative message. So I think using positive words and focusing more on the positive side of the coin would be one of my personal tips, or something that I try to do.
But not turning it into a shit sandwich.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. You can't. What's the saying? You can't put lipstick on a pig.
Yeah. So I would say that if you have to have a conversation and it is going to be a negative conversation, get to the point. You know, we have the thing about in our meetings, our pursuit of the truth.
Yeah.
That it is not personal.
Yeah.
So don't turn it personal. But get to the point. I don't suggest that you kind of tell somebody, well, look at the beautiful sunshine outside, and you know, the birds and the flowers and so on. But you shit.
But every cloud does have a silver lining. and I, ever the optimist, I don't believe that anything is ever 100% bad. I always think that there's a positive in every situation, even if it's not very visible right from the get-go. So I do try to find a positive in a shit situation. Can't say that.
I think we're saying the same thing. I'm saying that if I have to have a conversation with you about let's say, for example, a piece of work that I believe was not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there's just saying, well, you know what, Ali, that was really terrible, and go and redo it. But I can start off by saying, listen, this piece of work was not up to standard.
Yeah.
Then point out the things which I think were good about it, or even point out the things which in my opinion, are not up to standard.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. So just going back to your statement about every cloud has a silver lining. I mean, you don't start off with a silver lining. You start off with a cloud.
Yeah.
Then there's a silver lining.
So again, I think it comes back to context and the way that we use words, not just the words themselves, because there's a difference between your shit or that thing that you did is shit. So I think that's also, so it's separating the human from the event, or
But when we're talking about the power of words, it's also not really important to understand exactly what a word means before.
Yeah, and what a word means in context again. So, I mean, there's a lot of words which I don't like to mention that have become racial terms, for example, that were not originally a racial term, but because of the context and what's happened over time and how people use the words, that they've become racial terms. And now you cannot use the excuse. You can't use that word and say, oh no, but I meant it in the other way, because now the context around it is a racial context, for example. So you can't plead ignorance with things like words, because it's very obvious what people intend by words.
But we mentioned the example of literally, which people just chuck into every second sentence without understanding the meaning of the word.
I was literally over the moon.
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah, there's so many examples of it, and it frustrates me.
Yeah. So I personally don't think that people pay enough attention to the meaning of words. I mean the actual meaning of words.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, either it's become kind of part of the slang or just the way that people talk. But I believe it's important to make sure that we use the correct words.
Well, it's something that you've also spoken about before, is the not using the for emotions, I'm happy or I'm sad. It's what is the real emotion behind it. It's probably something a bit different.
Yeah. So be precise in your speech. I keep going back to the be precise in your speech, in terms of thinking through what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Also in terms of what we write.
Yeah.
I mean, we communicate. I don't know. I wonder what percentage of our conversations take place via written word.
Yeah, texts or
including WhatsApp, etc. So there's so much of that happening as well. So just between in a work context, emails.
Yeah.
Often what percentage of our communication happens by emails, and then in our personal lives and in our business lives, WhatsApps or some form of social media message, etc.
Yeah.
So one should really pay attention to that as well.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned earlier, once the words leave your lips, then you can't take them back.
Yeah. And
the same applies these days for social media.
Yeah, some WhatsApps now you can delete within 7 minutes, so that's saving grace if the other person hasn't read it yet.
Well, the fact that somebody deleted the message.
Yeah, that it tells you this message was deleted, and then you think, oh, what did that say? But
yes.
So I'm a stickler for spelling and grammar, and a lot of people know that about me. And I really get, I make mistakes, obviously. And I sent an email out to the whole company the other day, which 5 minutes after I sent it, I reread it, and I had used the wrong to, where I meant to say T-O-O, I used a T-O. And then I panic and I think, oh, people are going to think I'm so stupid. So I get very anxious when I send out an email and read it back and realize there was a mistake in it.
Yeah. So what made you originally think, I mean, you mentioned earlier that you watched this YouTube channel, but are there other incidents that kind of in the recent past made you very aware of this in terms of the power of words?
I think just in general, I notice it quite a lot. For example, the CV applications that we got for the intern position, there's a lot of words that I don't think mean what they think they mean in their cover letters, and a lot of it is stuff like on that English with Lucy that I watched. It's the words that you're supposed to use when you're trying to sell yourself, conscientious and diligent, and I don't think that it's enough to just insert those words into your everyday speech unless you understand what they mean exactly, and they do mean what you think they mean, and that they are applicable to you, because I think a lot of them are just, this is a word I must use. Yeah. So there's a lot of context where I've seen words and thought about words being powerful in that. And obviously written on your desk here in your office, I see the weasel words. And notice in our morning meetings how often I use I need to, or I'm going to try to, instead of being more intentional.
Just yesterday morning, I asked somebody to give me some feedback whether something was completed, and the word basically was
Yeah.
And it frustrated me because it is basically done.
Yeah.
And then, well, is it done or is it not done?
Yeah.
And people just get into a habit of inserting the word.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Well, I have another one that
not realizing that, well, I'm not 100% sure what to make of this.
Yeah.
Can I assume that you just inserted the word? Why would you go to the trouble of typing the word, basically?
Yeah.
Instead of just saying it's done or it's not done.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for me, that's a good example of just habit.
Well, I suppose it's also something like basically is to avoid it. It's not black or white. It's not a yes or no question. There's a something in between. So maybe basically is the wrong word.
You're not 100%
yeah.
sure. Does that mean you're not sure? Is it done or is it not?
Yeah.
We're trying to kind of leave yourself some room to maneuver.
Yeah. Well, the one I was thinking of is in a design environment. Jason and I have spoken about this one before, is where someone says, I want it to look almost exactly the same as something else. So almost exactly the same, but not quite exactly the same. So exactly like that, but different.
Correct. Many examples. I'd love to hear some more examples.
Yeah. Yeah, so words are powerful. We know that they are. I think it comes back to our positivity and being positive chats as well, and using positive words, probably in the right context, understanding what the words you're using mean. Lots of little nuances to talk about here.
Be precise and be honest.
Be honest, yeah, I agree. Cool. Well, thank you. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Ali.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.